Hello, my name is Greg Dixon. Today I'm going to talk about some of my paintings and demonstrate some of the paintings hanging in my home. Uh, Many of these paintings have been on exhibitions in North Vancouver. Some were part of the art rental program for the Community of the Arts Council. Some were on display in a gallery in Sarnia, Ontario. So anyway, without much further ado, let's take a look at some of the paintings. Yes, this painting is called Aurora Borealis. It's one of the first paintings that I completed, and one that I'm quite pleased with. It was inspired by an experience I had up in the Northwest Territories when I was diamond drilling, mineral exploration. We ended up freezing up the water line and spent the whole night trying to not freeze to death. And saw the water line. So I wrote a poem called Water Line to go with this. And anyway, so one of the features of this painting is that the northern lights shimmer on the paint. I used sort of interference paints, and I will try to demonstrate how that works. Here you can see the northern lights shimmering as you move from side to side. I'm sort of faking this with the light on the camera. But if you were to stand here and just move from side to side, you would see that too. Maybe I'll try that as well. Okay, here we are without the light, and I'll try going from side to side to show how it's shimmering. Yeah, hopefully you can see how the northern lights change as your angle of viewing changes. This one is called Duck on Slough. It's based on a photo of a slough on the farm that my grandparents homesteaded in Alberta near Drumheller. And I didn't paint it, but there is, in real life, there would be a white house up near the trees there, and that's where my mother was born and where she grew up until she was about 18 years old. So there are quite a few things I like about this painting. I like the reflection of the duck in the slough. I seem to have gotten a little bit lucky with that. The flowing grain seems to work out quite well too. I got a bit of a reputation in my artist group because I made a comment one day. I said that anything that I painted that had orange in it seemed to attract more interest or sell better than things that did not have orange. And anyway, this one is a good example of that. This painting I tend to call Tree of Life. I've probably had a few other names for it over the years. It was inspired by a tree near where we live on Grand Boulevard, and after I painted it, it really has very scant realistic association with the tree. It's much more symbolic than realistic. This painting I call Spirit Trees. When I was a young child, I perceived trees as being a kind of spirit. In some ways they were play companions for me. Anyway, eventually I got glasses and grew up. But anyway, these are spirit trees. Another comment about this is my mother said, "Your paintings are a little bit too dark and you have too much blue and too much green in your paintings." And anyway, my only defense is we grew up in Lynn Valley, and the main dominant colors there are blue and green, or except when it's overcast, gray and green. This pair of paintings I call Happy Feet. They were inspired by Anne and I hanging out at the beach out on the west coast of Vancouver Island at Long Beach. And the funny thing about this is I was driving through Kansas and had this inspiration or whatever to stop at a hotel in Kansas and paint these paintings. I never did, but I thought it would have been quite funny if I had painted them in Kansas. The one common factor is Kansas has a lot of large blue sky. This painting is called West Coast Sunset. It's inspired by the west coast of Vancouver Island, Long Beach. Anne and I stayed with friends over a weekend, and that had a bit of a story to it too. But anyway, there's another story to this. I originally painted the Duck on Slough painting and was going to give to my Uncle Harry, who was living on the farm where my mother was born and grew up. And anyway, when I finished it and was about to send it off, Anne says, "I really like that. You can't give that away." And so anyway, so I said, okay. So I painted this West Coast sunset scene. And anyway, Anne said, I really like that too. So anyway, so I gave it to my Uncle Harry anyway. And I painted a second one. This is actually the second version of the painting. And I thought I didn't go by photos. I was just sort of painting from memory. I thought I was painting the same thing. But the two ended up being quite a bit different. So I'm going to show you what the first one looked like in a minute here. This is the first West Coast sunset that I painted and gave to my Uncle Harry in Alberta near Drumheller. And anyway, my Uncle Harry has since moved into a retirement home, so I got the painting back. So now I can definitely look at the two side by side. I think the composition and the sunset worked out much better in this one here in the first one, and I think I got the water better in the second one. So, but it's very interesting to see how similar and how different the two of them are. Here are the two versions of West Coast Sunset. The one on the left is the one I painted first and sent to my Uncle Harry in Alberta, and the one on the right is the one I thought I would paint trying to make it the same. It's as you can see, they're similar but not really the same. This painting, hanging in our stairway down to the basement, I call my unintentional tribute to Pierre Elliott Trudeau. I didn't do it on purpose, but after I finished painting it, I sat back and I said, geez, it looks like the maple leaf is giving the finger. Anyway, there it is. Pretty simple painting, but it has a bit of a story. This painting is called Spectra. When the kids were quite young, we talked about this idea of a board game or a book with a theme about going between dimensions. And anyway, that was sort of the idea behind this one. It's really just a color wheel. I think it was designed to go 90 degrees sideways here, sort of in landscape mode, but really, who's to know? The other funny thing about it is one time we had a bunch of people over and I just asked everyone to look at the paintings, all of the paintings, and to pick their two favorite ones. And the interesting thing is quite a few people picked this one as a favorite, and overall it was interesting that most people had two different ones that they liked. So there was quite a good spread. If I were to second guess what I thought people would like, I would have picked three paintings, and I would have thought almost everybody would have picked those three, included those three. But anyway, what do I know? In this painting, I tried to capture that sort of godlike spirit light through the trees kind of thing. It's a little simplistic, but at some point I said, oh, it's got kind of a Zen-like feel to it. I'm just going to stop. And so there it is. I mostly paint landscapes, but I did go through a period where I painted three paintings involving dancers, so I call it a kind of a dancing theme. This one here called Belly Dancer, and young Middle Eastern woman, and I'm happy with the way I captured her face in the painting, and the colors are very rich. Many years ago, Bill Allman and I went out to scout a few country bands as possible venues for Blazing Saddles to play in, and so our research involved quite a lot of alcohol. We had to have the true experience. And in one of the bars, there were a number of women dancing, and I tried to capture this experience here. I tried to capture the motion and the flow of the hair and just the color swirls and that kind of thing. This painting is called Down from the Cross. Again, many years ago, I was traveling in Sedona, Arizona with a native artist and also a shaman. And interesting things happen to you when you travel with a shaman. So we met a young native woman there, and we ended up with quite a lengthy discussion about Christianity. And she said it was time to take Christ down from the cross. So anyway, I think the idea is that this crucifixion, persecution kind of image wasn't necessarily the best image for Christianity. So in this painting here, in the grass somewhere, you can see a very subtle impression of the cross on the ground. And I try to get this young woman sort of in the air, in flight, in kind of joyful freedom. So there we go, down from the cross. All of these paintings are available for sale. I have the originals, and I also can make framed prints or matted prints of any of the images.